Hey world out there, it's Mike White with Crystal DTF. So my friend Angela asked for help with this image, and she let me know, and it's good, that she doesn't have Photoshop, and that I go way too fast in my videos. So this is going to be the slow down, it's Saturday afternoon, relax tutorial on how to clean up this image. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go to Photopea.com. I like to call it Photopea. Oh, look, we're so relaxed, we're actually typing in the address wrong. So we're just going to go to Photopea.com and open it from our computer. Okay, so let's crop in on this. And I see this texture in the background. Kind of got a texture over the whole thing. So that's kind of worrying me. So I just hit control. So I just used the crop tool. Man, I am bad, aren't I? I switched to the crop tool and I just cropped in. Okay, so there we go. And I can crop in a little more. I just want to make sure it's pretty close to the edges so I can get an idea of the real size. All right, and then I'm going to go look at the image size, and it's actually pretty good. It's nice and big, 1414 pixels. And that texture, I was seeing it when I was zoomed out, but I'm not seeing it so much here. And I think it'll just go away on this one when we upscale it. Now, I will say that those leaves, that watercolor, that's always a trouble. But we're going to do our best to get that. All right, so let's just export this guy. Export as PNG. There's that texture. I'm pretty confident that Upscale is going to clean this up. Upscale likes to kind of, smoosh all those kind of textures. Sometimes that's a frustrating thing, but let's see. In this case, it might actually really help us. Okay, and I'm just going to go 4x because we're all cropped in real nice. So we're going to 5656. Yep, I think it just destroyed that texture, and that's great, because I don't think we wanted that. Okay, so we can close this one, and we can just open from computer again, and it's going to be the one that says upscale at the end. This is when I usually, these days at least, rename it. So let's call this Alright, and then we'll open that guy, and we'll look at it, and I think it's pretty good. The space bar switches to the hand tool, so holding the space bar down, you can just kind of scooch around on the document. And I do see a little bit of, distress or whatever you want to call it in these letters. That little bit might not be a problem. It just might look cool. Okay, so zoom in. We're going to zoom out, fit the area, zoom in. Let's hit fit the area. And we're going to get off of our crop tool. We're going to grab this move tool just because that's what I'm thinking about right now. We're just hanging out with the program. And we see all these kind of little jagged edges, but that's just something Photopea does. It's not real. If we zoom in and pixel to pixel, and then we do the middle mouse button also switches to the hand tool. But the space bar switches as well. So yeah, when we get in here, we're not seeing those jaggies. So we're just going to zoom back out, fit the area. figuring out how to navigate around, this is your layers panel. So that's just got that one layer. And I'm going to grab the magic wand. So it's like the fourth one down, magic wand. And you've got all these controls. And the tolerance, I usually keep it set to 80. 80, 100. With this, with that watercolor, that 80 might be a problem. And there's different ways that we could go about trying to separate that part of the design so that we could kind of treat it with its own, special treatment. It's special. So let's grab that magic wand. We have it. There's our magic wand. Oh, it could be hiding. There's that. That's a thing. These other tools hide below. So if you don't see it, you might just need to click on one of these, like the fourth one down, and find it right here. Okay, and I think that what we want to do is just kind of isolate around the parts that are not the watercolor, because these leaves are just going to be really difficult. And so I'm going to switch to my lasso, and I'm just going to draw around this shape. So I've just clicked with my mouse and I'm just drawing around it. And then I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool and I'm going to select this background color. And so I'm holding Alt on my keyboard. Having a real full-size keyboard is probably the most important thing for this whole process. Using a laptop or trackpad or anything like that, you got to have a real mouse and keyboard. If you do have a laptop, I guess you can just add those things onto it. Just get peripherals. I'm going to start a new layer here. So, what do I want to do? I want to paint over this so that I can deal with the rest of the document in a more authoritative way, actually, because I'm going to use that magic wand with that high tolerance, and that's going to give me a really good cut. So let's just make a new layer, because then we can just drop paint on this without destroying it. So I'm just going to hit this little new layer button over here. It's down here at the bottom, right next to this delete trash can. And now by clicking it, I now have layer 1, and that's above the background. So why am I doing that? The paint bucket tool, if I just tried to paint over this right now, right onto this background, it would obviously destroy the pixels on that background. I'd lose my greenery. And I'm just wanting to smooth things out so that I can use my magic wand to just select everything. So let's get this color, and I'm actually holding Alt and clicking, and I'm used to that being what I do in Photoshop. So I'm just holding Alt on my keyboard and clicking on the white background. And I still have my paint bucket tool selected. And I'm just going to drop paint. And so I just clicked in that area and just painted over that whole section. And now I'm going to do, but it's not gone. I can just use the eyeball and turn it off and on. And now I'm going to go with my lasso tool. It's the lasso because it looks like a little lasso. And I'm going to hit Control D to deselect. So the other way you could do that if you forget the shortcuts is select, deselect. And nothing is selected right now. So now I'm going to zoom in, and you can hit Control plus to do that. And then I'm going to use my space bar and move over here, because this side's a lot more difficult to select. So to do that, I'm just going to get in tight, and with my lasso tool, I'm just going to draw. But since I'm zoomed in so nice, it's real easy for me to like isolate that part. I mean, just get through that narrow gap. Okay. Now I've got part of it selected, and I can just drop my paint right now, but it's my style at least to just continue the selection. So I'm holding Shift, and I'm bringing my mouse inside what's already selected. That's really not necessary. I'm just showing you how I do it. And then I'm just going to select the rest of this. Okay. Now I'm holding the space bar, and I'm moving. And that's my next difficult spot. So the way, you know, I've seen people struggle with these kinds of selections my whole life. And, you know, I think that they just overthink it because they're trying to be so careful. And they're nervous. I get nervous. I get nervous about like a really tight spot. I mean, I just kind of see something like that, and it just kind of, ooh, it gets me, you know. But you see how I just selected the easy part, and I'm just kind of zooming in. Whoops, I didn't want to move that. I hit control, I just grabbed it, hit Control Z to fix it. I'm not sure why that moved that, because I'm not real familiar with Photopea. All right, so I got my magic wand. I mean, I got my lasso, and I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to get this kind of tough little guy right here, and I'm just being real careful right there on that edge, and then I'm going to grab it all like that. Okay. Okay. And normally, when you drop your paint bucket on something, it's actually going to think about the pixels in that area as it drops the paint. And so that's why I usually create a new layer, because then there's no other pixels on that layer to make the paint bucket tool detect edges or, you know, try to think about where to put the paint, because I don't want it to think for me. I just want it to put paint over the whole area. But since this layer doesn't have any pixels over here, it's just got the pixels on this side, then we should have no problem just dropping paint back onto this same layer. This will be our mask. So I'm just going to drop it, and it works. Great. And I'm just going to double click on this. So I'm double clicking on that layer, and I'm just going to call this mask, because that's what we're using it for. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Control D. All right, so that's where we are. And I will tell you that if this was my artwork that I was doing, I would want all these letters to be the same color. And I'm just kind of saying that out loud. I would probably want all of this to be the same color. I'd probably have to redraw his hooves too. That's a time-consuming process. Okay. So now we've got an easier job with this part, you know, and we can just kind of split this up into tasks. So I'm back to my magic wand. I'm selecting that. Got my tolerance of 80. And I'm just going to click once on the main background. And it literally just selected my mask layer. Okay. Why'd that happen? It's a setting. So I need this sample all layers to be checked. So because it didn't have that checked and I had this layer selected, it was not having the effect I wanted that by creating that mask. So now that I have it turned on, let's try again. Okay, so exactly what I'd hoped would happen. Since we have the mask there, it just powered past all that greenery that's hiding back there and made a perfect selection around most of what we need selected. But we can't just stop there. We need to get the insides of some of these other areas. So I'm just going to hold Shift and click inside the A. And then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to hold Shift and click right in here. Just right in his little crease there. And I'm going to hold Shift again and click here. And I think I've got the rest of my selection. I'm not real sure. It looks like I might have lost it. Shift, click. Yeah, I think I did lose it. So I'm not sure what I did wrong there, but I did lose my selection, but I'm back on track. And I'm just going to shift click in all of these areas. So I want to get all of the parts selected so I can make one copy, instead of like clicking in each of these areas and then doing like a delete key. I just want to get my whole selection arranged. And that way, if I do something like, expand the selection, I'm doing it to everything evenly and equally. But we've really got so many tricks up our sleeve. And, this image in particular is very easy in some ways. It's hard because of those watercolor leaves. But it's easy because it's got black all the way around. So normally, at this point, I would tell you, we should select, modify, expand. I'm sure you all have seen me do that before. I do it almost every time. And in this case, we have black. Well, we don't have it everywhere. Look right there. There's also some little strange stuff right there. Whoops. Control Z. So I'm just thinking about what's right to do here. I'm just learning the image. That's what I call this process. I think I've got everything selected. I don't see any hidden stuff. If we don't do the select, modify, expand, we're going to get a better outline of the shape. And if we do it, we're going to not have any white edges. So I'm getting distracted. Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's just move on. I'm going to invert the selection. I've just decided we're going to do the stroke around the outside. That's the plan. So let's invert the selection. Select, inverse. And so what that's done is everything around outside was selected before, and now everything inside selected. So it's just inverted it from around the outside of the letters. It looks about the same but it's actually selecting the inside parts. And we can check it and get really close and see, like, it's stuff like this. That's the reason I usually do my select, modify, expand, because there's going to be a little bit of weird line there. Now let's select the background, because we're trying to copy all of this and put it on its own layer. So that's our original. Let's rename that. Let's just call it original. That's what it is. And I'm going to hit Control C and then Control Shift V. So I use my pinky finger, and then I use my ring finger, and then I use my pointer to hit V. And so now I've got my original, and then I've got my layer 1. And so I can turn this one off and turn this one off, and this is all isolated. And so I'm going to call this, well, nope, I'm not going to call it anything yet, because I'm going to break it up a little bit more. So let's just grab the lasso again, and let's grab this text. You know, and if you're following along, I think the best thing to do would be to just pause the video. My good friend Valerie. I was about to say my friend Valerie. I have to say my good friend Valerie. She, I think, pauses the videos that I make and follows them along and just tries to follow each step. And out of all the people that I've ever taught, I've really never seen, well, maybe except for Trisha Pack, I've never seen anybody that picked it up so fast. I think Trisha probably had a lot of skills from other things too, and I know Valerie did as well. But I think what she does is she pauses and then tries to follow along. So what I've done, you know, as you can tell, I've just isolated all this. And so now I've got my main artwork. So I've got, this is my top text. I stopped explaining what I was doing and started talking about people. And this is my bottom text. I don't know why I'm trying to write top there. So there's my top text, and there's my bottom text. And then we'll call this artwork. We could call it hog. I think that would be more appropriate. We are in Arkansas. All right. And then I'm just going to add that stroke. So I could, I mean, it's pretty good right now. We don't have our leaves. I need to go deal with those because they're going to be such a pain. So now I've added a stroke. I don't want it outside. I want it inside. All right. And so that's just 3 pixels. We'll go look at that stroke panel again. I know I did that too fast. So let's see what that's doing. There's this little arrow here. And if I flip it down, you can see what that stroke's doing. And I can tell you that I don't like this part right here. I just think that's too small. I don't think that's going to help us. And so I just switched to my eraser tool and I just erased it. And so we can see that stroke coming in, eating inside. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep us from having like a weird white edge all the way around our artwork. I mean, the printer's bad enough, you know, at putting weird stuff on it. We don't want to give it weird stuff to start out with. So if we increase that stroke, that's kind of bringing that in. We change the color. So I've literally just clicked, sorry. Yep, I need to explain more. I'm just clicking the fill type here. I just click that swatch and then I'm going to try clicking here and see how that set it to that lighter black. And so now when I bring that stroke in, it doesn't look as like it's destroying things. And I just think, you know, a little bit of this, you see what that effect that's having. Now, I'm being really nitpicky, and And I've just seen this line that's going through the artwork. And I don't know, I think that might be an artifact from Upscale. So I just want to clean that up. I don't know if the original had that or not. I don't think so. So I'm just going to grab my brush tool. So hit B to select your brush tool, or it's right here. And you got your brush settings up here. You got size and hardness. And I like the brush to be fully hard most of the time. It seems like I either use a fully hard brush or a completely soft one. I'm not doing digital painting here. To do that really well, you need to have a tablet, I think. And I'm just going to hold Alt. I'm not real sure how to get that panel to close. Okay, click it right up there. I'm going to hold Alt and click this red. And I'm going to hold Alt and click this black. And you see what I'm doing? I'm just trying to make it so we can't see that line. I'm going to zoom in here. So I'm just going to fix that line. And I just picked that color. And this is where you would like to have a soft brush. And you can increase the size of your brush. There's two little keys above the inner button. They look like little brackets, and they're left, there's one that's next to the P, and then there's one that's next to the slash. But they go, the right one makes your brush bigger, and the left one makes your brush smaller. And I'm just going to paint with that soft brush to try to fix that line. And I'm going to do some more of that right here. And just a little more of it right there. And I'm definitely going to get in here and try to get some of this. So that soft brush just kind of blends things. I'll grab this darker black and just blend out that part right there. And we'll grab this color. We'll fix all that up. And we'll grab this. We'll fix all that. Alright, so now I just can't see the line. And that's all that matters because it's art. Okay. I'm pretty happy with all that. So this we'll consider our hog done. And we'll get our bottom text going. So a stroke in Photopea and in Photoshop is it doesn't have sharp edges. And I would like to just select the inside of all these letters and then just put a stroke around it. But since we've got these like sharp corners, the stroke won't naturally do that. It'll round all that. So we're going to just stay with the black that we have, and we're going to stay with the red, all on one layer. I mean, we could actually put it on another layer. But what I want to do is select all of this. It's from that bottom text. And let's just Control C. Yep, we will put it on its own layer. I'm kind of rambling here because I'm just letting you see what my brain's doing. I'm going to call this Razorbacks red. And I'm going to pause and go research what that color's supposed to be. Okay, so Gemini says that the Razorback red is 9D2235. So I'm going to click my little swatch here, and I'm going to put 9D2235. That is too many characters, Mike. 9D2235. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my brush tool because I plan to draw a little patch of this color and see how it goes with everything. So I'm just increasing my size, and I'm just going to draw a little piece of that color. Looks pretty close. I'm going to get Control Z. Let's just zoom in, and I'm going to use my bracket keys on my keyboard. Yeah, it's not far off. And I wonder how that looks. I'm going to hit Control Z. I wonder how that looks next to the hog. So this is just all subjective. I would probably at least try to change this main text to that Razorback red. Let's use our color picker for a second. See how there's all this color variation? When I click, it keeps popping up different colors. But those are pretty close. There's a lot of variation across the surface, but there's not a lot of variation. It's not a huge difference in this color and that color, at least not to my male eyes. You know, women can see better colors than men. It's documented. So I'm just making a decision here. And my decision is I'm going to stick with this color that's here because I just don't think that we're safe to try to change it. So I'm gonna select it. I am going to make it homogeneous. All right, so that's our, yeah, we've already got that isolated. That's right. Here we go. All right. So we're just going to put a color overlay to fix up all these scratches and dents. So let's do blending options, color overlay, and then choose that flat color. And now it's still on the bottom text, you know, it's still there. But it's now hidden by this. And that's just going to clean everything up. It's going to make the whole image look smoother because it's got that solid color. And now with our bottom text, let's do that same trick with the stroke around the inside. Probably the same color, but just in case, let's click and select it. Yeah, it's the same. Well, maybe because I have it on. That's the kind of stuff I do. I'll trick myself. Yeah, let's turn the stroke off. And then let's click. Okay, we'll use that color. Okay, then we'll turn the stroke back on. And I didn't see it eat into the letters. And the bigger I make this, the better off we are up to a certain point. I'm not sure why we're not seeing that. Surely 79 pixels, it should be showing us. Oh, got it. I just, see, tricking myself. Look. Cool. That's great. So now we know having that layer on top is actually working out great for us, because now we know this is a solid color and this is a solid color. Well, let's repeat that. Let's group these two so that we're not lost. I'm going to hit Control G on them, and I'll just call this whole thing bottom text. Okay. And I'm just going to click my color picker again just to make sure I've got that red. And we'll repeat those steps up here with the top text. So I've got my magic wand again, set at 80, contiguous, sample all layers. And I'm just going to shift click all the letters. And I'm going to select the top text layer and hit Control C, Control Shift V. And then I think I should be able to copy my effect. If I right click on this, layer style, copy, and then this is my Razorbacks red. And I'm going to right click on this, layer style, paste. So now I know the top and the bottom are the same. And then I'm going to right click on this bottom text, layer style, copy. And right click on this top text, layer style, paste. And I'm going to group those two, just because I'm being really precise on this one. We're taking our time. So I hit Control G, and then it grouped those two layers. I shift selected them. So I select one, and then I hold shift and select the other, and then hit the Control G. Okay, so I'm going to consider my hog and my top and my bottom text done. So now, let's click on our mask. So I'm going to hold Control and click on the mask. And that's selected the pixels in that mask. So holding Control and then clicking the thumbnail icon of the layer. Control click. That's how you do it. Now I'm going to go and invert that. No, I don't need to invert it, do I? I don't. Yes, I do. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's move this mask down. So I'm just going to drop it down here. If it'll let me, I'm just grabbing it down. Because I don't want this to be my mask anymore. I want to invert it. Control Shift I. So now it's everywhere else. And then we need a new layer because we're going to make a new mask. So let's click New Layer. And we'll call it Outer Mask. And we're going to grab whites. So I'll turn this layer on just to make sure I'm grabbing the right whites. Oh, it is pure. And I'm just going to drop paint on this outer mask. So I'm going to select my paint bucket. Boom. That could be hiding behind the gradient tool, looks like. And I'm just going to paint. So I just clicked and it painted it, but it didn't look like anything happened. And that's great because all of our stuff up here looks so nice and precise that we didn't even see a difference. But if we turn these off, now we'll see that all of that has been masked out. So it's nice to turn those off anyway, because it's just going to make it easier for your computer. And I can tell you this, we're at a great point to save. We probably should have saved long ago. We're going to hit Save As. I'm saving it in my Downloads folder because that's where I save my client work, because I always finish uploading it to the drive. But if you're doing this for yourself, I would probably save it somewhere on your computer that makes sense. Unless you adopt a practice like putting it in the drive. That's the best practice possible. Put it in a drive somewhere. Okay, so now we've just got these two to deal with. We're almost done. And I think that we can control click this mask. No, we're good. We're good. Let's not do that. I was about to say let's pull this off. Yeah, why not? Let's pull it off. Okay, so you control click the other mask, right? And then just with the original layer selected, control C and control shift V. I don't know if you need to do control shift V with Photopea, but you certainly do with Photoshop. And since the goal for everybody should always be to get to Adobe Photoshop at some point, using control shift V even in Photopea is a good plan just to get that muscle memory going. So now I can turn this layer off, and you can see I've just got those leaves. But I don't want to try to pull this background away, right? Because then I'm going to be fighting this edge. So I want to keep that outer mask on so that I have a smooth all the way across, so I don't have to worry. Am I going to have this little outline of pixels right here? So a lot of these techniques that I use, I don't explain them very well because I've just been using them for 15 years, and so I'm trying to get better at that. So I got my magic wand. I know that a lot of the work we did was to get away from having to use a tolerance of 80, but we're just going to try it. It looks like it's actually working pretty great. It ate into that leaf right there, and it ate through that, and it ate through that. So we are going to lower it. So you always want to use the highest tolerance that you can get away with, because you're just going to get a cleaner cut. You're going to have less little like wavy lines. All right, so that's what 60 does. And I see it's still eating through that. And that might be acceptable. It's a balancing act, trying to get a clean cut and trying not to have to do too much manual. Let's grab our magnetic lasso and see if it will help us here. So I just chose my magnetic lasso, and I'm just going to go outside and click. This is the kind of thing that I really miss Photoshop for. Unite, subtract, intersect. Yeah. I'm not sure that magnetic lasso is going to work very well, or I just don't know how to use it. So we'll do the regular lasso. See if we can make that work. So I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm just going to draw this guy back in. So I'm going to hold Alt and click. Nope. Alt, click. Nope. Yep, I'm not sure what's happening. Alt, click. Okay, just confidence. It's like peeling. It's like doing a hot peel. You got to do it with confidence. So I just hit Alt, and then I just started dragging, and everything was fine. Okay, and I can keep refining this. So I can hold Shift and dig in on the parts that need it. And I can hold Alt and deselect the parts. So it's just like painting. It's like, you push with one color and you pull with another, or at least that's what we called it. And you hold Shift to increase a selection. And I might have just, I needed to hold Alt on that one. Yeah, I'm doing it wrong, guys. Nope, I'm doing it right. All right. Yep. Oh. Okay. Now let's hold Shift and click in these other areas. Probably should zoom out and see what's really happening. Let's grab that. Let's grab that. Shift. Shift click. Spacebar move. Shift click. Shift click. Shift click. Shift click. Shift click. Man, I thought I missed that one. And then this is messy. You know, I'm going to let that line live. I think that's going to be okay. I think it's a better line. Okay. Let's see this side. Shift, shift, shift. There's that same problem. And I just thought about the idea of flipping this thing. And the more I think about that, the more I love it. Let's do that. All right. Let's grab our lasso. Yeah, because they are mirrored. Let's just shift click this. So I held shift to like just go ahead and select that whole other side. And now I'm going to do Control Shift I. Okay. And that's my layer. And I'm just going to hold Control C and then Control Shift V. Okay. And so I'm going to pull this up and we're going to inspect all this. Whoops, I thought I'd pull it up. Come on. I'm not sure why that's not working. There we go. I'll call this left Ivy. I'm not sure if it's Ivy or not, but that's what I'm calling it. And I'm just going to turn everything else off. And I think that we need to just analyze how this looks against black, because black is the problem. So let's click here and let's do a color fill of black. Black's not the problem, it's the solution. It's what shows us our edges. So yeah, we've got some really, I call that edginess. We also call it in the industry fake outlines. So let's control click this Ivy and let's do select, modify, contract. And we're going to contract by 2 pixels. That's going to get us nice and inside and hit OK. And then we're going to do Control Shift I to flip it around because that's the part we're going to cut off. So we're just going to chop that. I'm selecting the left Ivy and I'm hitting delete. And now I'm going to hit Control D and we can look that we've got much cleaner edges. It's much better. All right. Now let's turn this black layer off and let's turn our original on and let's duplicate our left Ivy and let's call this one right Ivy and then let's flip it to the other side. Edit, transform, flip horizontally. Now let's select our move tool. And I'm just going to hold shift. Whoops. I'm going to start dragging it to the right and then hold shift. So when you hold shift, it locks it. So I'm not like perfect there. Wow, and there is a variation between these. Look at that. So this might not work as well as I thought it would. I'm trying to understand what's different about it. It's very similar, yet different. Okay. Whoops, Control T is not what I wanted there. Let's save. Okay, I think it's just tilted. So we're going to hit Control T. No, that's Photoshop talking. I'm not sure what it is here. Edit. It's Alt Control T. Alt Control T. I don't like that combination there. And we'll just scoop this in. This is a Tim Gunn moment. We are making it work. And I think that that's going to be close enough where nobody's going to get mad at me. We could obsess over it and make it perfect. Control T is just like it's making a new tab. It is muscle memory. Control Alt T. Wow. All right. And it feels like whatever I do here is just a little bit wrong because I get it matched up over there and then that's not fitting just perfectly. So there's also been some more transformations done. Yeah, we're just going to make it happen. It's going to be close. Yep. Can we just hold shift and drag this a little bit? Yep, that makes it a little better. It's definitely what the original person did, is just some kind of twist or rotate here. I'm holding shift, which lets me like deform it. Alright, enough obsessing. Right Ivy done. Cool. Alright, so we got all of our different layers done. And we're just going to do a final check on this against the black. And I see no problems. I think it's perfect. Cool. Awesome. Alright, let's finish it up. We're going to save it. We're saving our PSD is what we're doing. And that's saving to my local computer. And then we're going to do image trim transparent pixels. Okay. So we saved our PSD with all the layers. Now we're going to look at our image size. We want to turn off resample. And we're going to change our DPI to 300. And so it's at, it's 18 inches. Let's turn resample back on now that we've got it down to close to the size, and we'll just change this to 15. This is just my standards. If you know you're going to use a smaller size, there's no reason to do 15. But I'm choosing to do 15 on everything because I don't know. I have a 16 by 20 heat press, and the screen printing industry standard is 15 by 19. So now that it's trimmed, it looks like Arkansas is not centered. It's off. And we can't let that happen. So we're going to select this top text. We've got our move tool. We're going to make sure that we're aligning. This is the alignment tools up here. Aligning to canvas. And we'll just click the center horizontally. And just let that be a little bit better than the original. Is that getting into that leaf? It's cutting off the leaf. But I don't think we care. Because we're making this our own at this moment. Okay. Now we're going to save. And then I'm going to merge what's visible. So it's time to prepare the final image. I'm just clicking on these layers we're not using anymore and deleting them. There should be a merge visible There it is. Okay. Let's hit merge layers. Let's hit merge layers. Select. I selected the top one. I'm holding shift and selecting the bottom one. And let's do merge layers. So it's all on one layer again. Now we're going to mask it. We're going to do layer, vector mask. Is that what I want? No. I'm expecting to be able to do layer mask from transparency. Raster mask. Got it. From transparency. Now I'm going to hold Alt and click the mask. And I'm going to do image adjustments threshold. And hit OK. That's all you do there. You can zoom in here and see that you don't have any. It's all like super extra hardened on the edges. Cool. This one's done. File, export as PNG. And that's going to take a second and pop up this little window. And then I'm going to change this to 4500px, put my name, and then RTP. Save. All right. Hey, that's it. Well, I hope this was like not too crazy and extremely helpful for someone that needed a little bit slower pace and a little more explanation on the tools. And I'll try to always strike a balance between those things as we move forward. I'm just human, so I'll make some mistakes. All right, you have a great day. Talk to y'all soon. Thanks. Bye.